What if
I don't know what he's going to say. I have no idea.
what if he starts talking about the past, way in the past?
And he might, I don't know. I have no idea what he's going to say.
Yeah. No idea.
No.
What if he
I
starts
hope-
talking about? What if he starts
I hope
talking
he
about
admits
the
it.
disappearance of Mike?
I hope he admits this morning. I hope he admits what he did. If they ask him about Mike, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see.
Yeah. Well. Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Fine. We have never met. Fine as well. Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Fine. We have never met. My name is Mike Devaney. How you doing? Do you know that name at all?
No.
Okay. I'm with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Okay. I've literally known you and I've known your family for many, 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 many years. Okay. The reason I say that is, I've been looking into Mike's disappearance. Okay. Literally dissected as much as I could about you, members of your family, Brian, Mike, and his family, and the family when you and Mike were together. Okay, worked with a lot of people, trying to figure out the whole scenario of his disappearance, and had to go back and literally reinvestigate a lot of things that was investigated before. Okay. And again, I had to go back to y'all's marriage and what were you doing during those times? What were you doing job wise? And Mike, Mike's employer, the whole works. Okay. What you all own, what you didn't own. And this has been an ongoing process for a long time. You need to understand that. Okay. I used to know your gate code by heart and going in your neighborhood. I know your house very well. I know when you took the carpet out, the whole works. There's a whole lot I don't know. Okay. Please understand that.
Talking about the hardwood floors upstairs.
You name it, I know about it.
Okay.
Okay. I want to talk to you about a couple of things, and maybe you can fill in a couple of gaps for me. Can you do that for me?
I could try.
Okay. Obviously, the reason I'm here, I know about what happened today. Okay. And like the other officer said, it's going to have to sink in that today was going to be your last day. Please let that sink in. I mean, he didn't have sheets to sleep on, tonight or the night before, the night after. He had plastic and he had some other object. And what was that other object he had? Could you tell? Can you describe it?
It was, I mean, it was like maybe wide. It wasn't a hammer, but it was kind of that size and maybe wider. I have no idea
Small
what it was.
folding shovel?
No, it wasn't a shovel. I mean, it was like a long, It definitely wasn't a shovel, but
Okay.
but it was about the length of like a hammer. But but it seemed to be fatter the way that he grabbed it. But I have no.
When y'all were going towards CVS, it's what I can understand. He wanted to turn around and go the other way.
He kept saying go to the roundabout, and I think he was wanting me to go back, but
Towards your
wasn't
house?
really listening. I was maybe, but I wasn't really listening. I was just trying to get
Yeah.
to CVS.
Where do you think Mike's buried at?
Oh, I have no idea
You know, any speculation on that?
on where he's buried.
Buried.
I mean, I believe.
You don't really believe he died on the lake.
I do.
Why?
I just always have. That's what I believe. And I have, from when he was saying roundabout, I don't know. I talked with the last two people and I can't remember if he wanted me to turn left or right.
No. That's not what I'm talking about.
Oh.
Why do you think Mike perished in the lake? Because he didn't die in Lake Seminole. Okay.
That's what I've always believed. That's what I believe.
And why?
I've never been proven anything different.
Well, has there been any proof if he would have perished in that lake, he would have been found. Okay. There's never been a person that has fallen over or whatever that they've never found except for Mike. I mean, that's literally, it's an impossibility that he died in that lake.
I guess that's just what I believe.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you knew all the information about, what was recovered out there and all that, right?
My dad would keep me updated. Yeah.
You got this big monster search and none of that, and then later it just appears. I mean, that kind of led investigators go in different directions than what they initially thought. Okay. I mean, I was even curious. I mean, I recovered the car we all used to have during that time. I got it from the junkyard in Alabama, brought it back here and tore it apart. The little boat that Mike had, a little Genu boat, I found it over in Monticello, brought it back. I just wanted to get a good look at it. There's a whole lot of stuff. You don't have a clue what we've looked at. And we've certainly come to the conclusion that Mike did not, again, perish or die on Lake Seminole. Okay? Please understand that. We've kind of tracked what's been going on in y'all's lives, again, before Mike disappeared all the way till now. Okay, we knew about the divorce stuff. We knew about people living in different places and the whole works. Talked to Kathy, she probably didn't tell you that. Well, she may have. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And you seem to say you don't have a clue whatever happened to Mike. Were you and I guess you, Mike, Kathy, and Brian, y'all are pretty close before Mike disappeared, right?
Yeah.
How close were y'all?
I mean, I would say we talk pretty much every day. We were very close.
Yeah.
I'm still very close with Kathy.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, again, we researched, trips y'all used to make to Orlando and some other stuff. Apparently you were really close. Okay. You know what I'm talking about?
Me and Kathy she's texting me right now, so we're still very close.
Okay. If I say we're totally aware of all the videos, you probably know what I'm talking about.
Did you say what?
The videos?
I would have to see them.
Well, that's not going to happen. But
Okay.
You're clueless when I say videos.
Yeah.
You, Kathy and Brian?
I would have to see them.
Yeah. You have no idea what I'm talking about. So you've got to see them.
No, I'm just starting to feel very uncomfortable.
Okay.
But
Well, I've been uncomfortable for a long time because we needed some things on this case.
right.
And we were hoping one day that either Brian or you maybe could fill in some of the gaps there, fill in a piece of the puzzle.
Right. But I guess right now I need to focus on this and what happened this morning, and I want to get this restraining order done by 5:00. And I want me and my daughter to be safe, and that's what I'm focused on.
There's no doubt that Brian's going to be located and put in jail. So I would imagine he's not going to immediately be bonded out under the circumstances and the crimes that he has committed. Okay.
I don't know. But I just want to get this restraining order done so that I can have a little peace
Yeah.
for tonight with my daughter. That's That's what I'm focused on.
Well,
right now.
if he is arrested, the next few hours, which I'm sure is going to happen, Leon County is very good about finding people. Okay. Well, that's going to happen. When Brian is arrested, which will happen, he is going to probably provide another side of whatever happened today. You're aware of that?
This morning.
Yeah.
I have no idea what he's going to say.
Well, that's what people usually do. They give their side of something. Let's go there.
Yeah, I don't know.
What
I don't know what he's going to say. I have no idea.
What if he starts talking about the past, way in the past?
And he might, I don't know. I have no idea what he's going to say.
Yeah. No idea.
No.
What if he starts talking about
the
the disappearance of Mike?
I hope he admits this morning. I hope he admits what he did. If they ask him about Mike, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, has Kathy ever talked about Mike's disappearance? Or not Mike's, but Brian's disappearance? The day Mike disappeared?
I don't remember.
You don't remember that?
No. I'd have to. I can text her right now.
No,
I don't
no,
remember.
No.
Okay.
I want to hear from you. Okay.
I
Brian just disappeared.
don't.
Kathy's ever talked about that?
I'd have to talk with her. But again, I really want to focus on this. And if you, I mean,
well, this is
I understand that this is what you want to talk about.
Well, this thing today, it's kind of a done deal. We know what happened. It's going to be verified in the video and all that. Whether Brian admits to what he did to you today, he did it.
Right.
And once they arrest him, I'm sure they're going to find some of the things that you talked about.
I hope so.
And that's kind of a done deal. Okay. But obviously things have been building for a long time.
Well, we've been separated for a long time.
Yeah.
But for me, again, I want to file this restraining order before 3:30. So before 5. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's 3:30 right now. I just want to make sure that I have time to do that. That's my priority right now.
Well, I know what time it is. All right. I know the other officer talked to you about a lot of different things. Okay, about what's been going on and everything. Okay. I wish I could just fill in some of the pieces of the puzzle. I'd much rather get it from you than from Brian, because when he's arrested, I'm going to talk to him too.
That's fine.
And see what he says. Okay. He may say something you don't want to hear. I don't know.
Well, I have no idea.
You're not a clue. Not a clue.
I don't even know what he's going to say about this morning.
Well, this morning's a done deal. Okay. We know what happened. You told us, and again, there's going to be a pretty good video, and I'm sure that they're going to find some of the things that you talked about. So that's solved, so to speak. Okay. I think it was my phone. You heard me.
Oh, that's funny. My attorney's calling me. Let me just do it real quick. Okay, sorry.
They are.
But I guess what I'm saying is about the Mike situation that you want to talk about. I don't want to talk about this right now.
Would you talk about it later?
I don't want to talk about this right now. I want to get this settled first.
This is settled.
It's not settled to me, though. I have not gone down. I have not filed the restraining order, and that's what is pressing on me so bad. So I understand that you want to talk about this, but this is what I want to do. This is what has to be done.
Yeah, you got
today.
You got some time. We're almost done. All right. Well, you know why it's so important to talk to you about Mike. This was your husband. He simply vanished. Hopefully you still have an interest in that.
Well, again, this is my priority right now, and I'm not comfortable talking about this right now. I've had an unbelievable day, and
I know you have.
It's just all too much right now. I really want to focus on this.
Has it sunk in that you literally saved your own life today?
All I know is I was praying.
Well,
I don't even know how
you did the right thing coming here. You know that.
We'll see.
I don't think there's any sin about it, considering what he had in the back of your vehicle. You know,
I'm just,
that's a clue right
I
there.
was just doing the best I could, and
Well, you did. You saved your life. I just want that to
now,
sink in.
now I just want my daughter and I to continue to be safe, and that's why I'm so worried about this. That's why I can't even focus on that, because all I'm focused on is us and getting through this night when he's going to find out that I told, after I promised him over and over and over that I wouldn't tell anyone, and when he finds out, I'm just,
Well, when somebody does this to you and has a gun involved, they can't really expect you just to ignore that.
well, but I had set up where I wouldn't tell anyone, and I would meet him later in the day.
Well, yeah, you were saying everything,
Yeah.
because literally at that point you had to say something again. You had
Right,
to keep saying this, but it's true to save your life.
right.
And it worked.
And he, I guess pretty agreed to that, and then left. And then I was supposed to meet him and his dad about now, today, to talk about it.
He goes and buys a gun, something very, very horrible. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or whatever. He did that. Okay.
Yeah.
And he's stuck in your vehicle, and there he was. He didn't knock you the door and say, let's talk about it.
No.
All right.
No.
Look what he did. I mean,
And I guess that's just, I still just can't believe it.
well, you're going to have to believe that you're alive right now. All right. That's
And I'm very
pretty darn
thankful.
important. Yeah, absolutely. And he's going to be arrested on some very, very serious charges.
Do you know the procedure as far as like when I file this, if he's already arrested, then he's just arrested, but then he'll get out like tomorrow, right? Or, I don't know how it works,
I
but
kind of have no idea what sort of bond they're going to put on it.
so it depends on
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But when he's out, he can just do whatever, right?
Well, let's hope he doesn't do whatever. Hope it's finally sunk in that he screwed up. And you're going to go through the court stuff, and hopefully that will sink in too, that he's up since he
I'm
comes
just
out.
worried about that long period of time where I know, like, if he gets arrested, there won't be a court date for a long time, and it's that time I'm worried about. That's where he's out, knows that I told when I promised I
He
wouldn't.
can't be that stupid to think that you're not going to tell.
I'm just worried about that time in between, and I'm worried about me and my daughter and where we're going to live and how we're going to be safe. I don't even have a dog.
Yeah. Well, what we have seen, we've seen a side of not Mike, but Brian, that we knew was there, and it surfaced again. Okay. Because again, we've kind of tracked his history, and we also know, Mike vanishes. So.
Well, I myself have never seen anything like what I saw this morning. Never.
What about
It wasn't a
what about the
person.
Atlanta
It
episode?
wasn't a person, but that was on a whole, this took it to a whole nother, that was nothing compared to this. But when he left, when he got out of the truck, he was crying, I'm so sorry, and said, like, back, calm and not that person anymore. That's how I left him, and that's how I wanted to stay. And then me coming here and filing this and him finding out.
That's the way you wanted to stay. You really think he would never explode like this again?
I would have never thought he would have done this. So I don't have
Man.
because I have. Obviously, he's capable of what he did today because he did it. So.
Do you think he's responsible for Mike's disappearance?
I do not, and I never have. I would have never married him if I thought that. I would have never wanted so bad to have children with him. I would have, in my mind and in my heart, no. David is my brother-in-law, and he was just sitting here talking to me about trying to get me to understand that, that my life was in danger today.
Absolutely.
And then having me to look back on that whole situation now from a different point of view. And I'm definitely going to do that. But do I believe right here in this moment that he had anything to do with that? Absolutely not.
But not.
Does that mean that I'm not going to process this and then go back? Of course I am. But I've got to process this first. And I know you understand that.
Sure.
Well,
process this, but please, when you find time to go back, you need to process a whole lot about whatever happened. Because in studying this whole situation, we knew that one day there would be a blow up. We predicted that.
There was.
Until it,
There was.
oh, I don't think it's finished yet as far as people talking about different things.
No, but I just mean between me and him this morning was a blow up.
Yeah, it was. And again, I'm still like a broken record, but hope it is sinking in how bad it could have been.
I think it'll take some time, but I'm realizing the depths of what could have happened. Yeah.
You know, when you don't carry that stuff and have again, you know, to sleep with it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or you say something you thought maybe the sheets were used for sleeping or whatever. No, I don't think so. You don't have plastic and whatever the other two was.
And again, I hope that backpack's still there. I hope they can, whoever, the police can pull it out and see exactly, you know what I'm saying? Because it was a turn, you know, a couple glimpses and that was it. But I'm pretty sure I'm right. But I would like to know myself, did I see this right? Did I, you know what I mean? Like what was in there? I would like to know.
We'll find out.
Just to confirm.
When they find him, I'm sure that they'll eventually get to whatever that was. All right.
I hope so.
That's down the road.
I hope so.
I just want everything to sink in about. I'm not concerned about this. I am, but you're alive.
Right.
I'm talking about the other.
Right.
There's a whole lot of people want some closure in that.
Right.
We all think we've got a pretty good idea of what happened, what the whole scenario was. Okay. You need to know that.
Okay.
So.
And I will. I'll get through this and then rethink everything. Because again, I've never seen anybody this way that he was this morning, and I've definitely never seen him this morning. He was just crazy. He was crazy.
Well, I'm going to go out. I'm going to find somebody to share this off to take care of the other names.
The restraining order stuff.
You know,
okay, thank you.
But I'm going to leave on this note. I was hoping you could fill in some of the pieces of that puzzle. You haven't. We arrest Brian, he might. Okay?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Well, just think about what you said. No?
Okay.
Let me step out, see if I can find somebody to take care
Thank you.
of whatever you're doing.
On October 9th, 2017, this is Tully Sparkman, investigator, state attorney's office. In the conference room was Jason Newell, investigator, state attorney's office, Tim Jansen, Brian Winchester, and Adam Comisar. Correct. Okay, we're here to take a profit from Brian Winchester. I don't have the case number.
It's not really.
There is a case number.
We're not going to refer to this case.
Okay.
It's improper. Really, Brian, at this point, I guess swear him in first.
Yeah, all right. Raise your right hand. You swear in front of the state you're going to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
All right.
We're going to let you run the show. Okay.
Yeah, this is, I don't know that there's much
Just
more.
put on the record, put you on the proffer. The proffer is given under the 2-page document that's been signed by the parties.
Right, correct. Both parties agree.
We're here with that. Okay.
I'll let you go, man.
Yeah.
Okay. You want a lot of background, or do you want me to focus on the incident, or?
Well, if we want to do if you want to do a storyline, I mean, kind of keep it chronologically. You want to start the night before in Thomasville, or? Or when do you feel like?
I'll just start.
Yeah, you go with it, and then at the end, it's easier for us to just ask you questions.
Okay. And you guys will interrupt if you need to. So I've known Denise my whole life, basically since preschool. And knew Mike beginning in high school. Never really had any interest in Denise until (1997). I was married. My first marriage was in 1994 to Kathy. Mike and Denise were married same year, end of the year, 1994. We started having an affair October 13th, 1997. We took a couple of trips that may or may not be able to be documented. One of them was to New York. The other one was to Miami. I'm sure the phone calls and texts, I'm sure y'all looked those up, but they would have been extremely extensive from 97 until 2000. I sold an insurance policy to Mike probably around when he first got married, probably around 94, something like that. May have been earlier than that, I don't remember, but it was a policy for $250,000 from Kansas City Law Insurance. My understanding is Mike bought a second policy probably when he got, well, maybe a couple years after he got married. I don't remember, but it was with a different agent. It was with Cotton States, and it was for $500,000. I sold Mike a third policy in the year before his death for $1 million. It's always been in the media that it was like 6 months before. I don't think it was 6 months. I think it was more like 9. But that may have been from when the original application was, and it's splitting hairs anyway. It doesn't really matter. So a lot of things were happening, and I'm sorry, it's been so long I get the dates mixed up a little bit, but his disappearance was December of 2000, correct? So during the year of 2000, we both had babies. Well, we had babies previous year, but we had, very young kids. I quite honestly was somewhat content with the arrangement. As far as me and Denise, I wasn't looking or pushing to get a divorce. I didn't want to get divorced. And he didn't want to get divorced. But there were just a lot of things that were coming together that led us to start having conversations about what was going to happen and where was this going. And basically, Denise made it clear she would never get divorced. primarily because of appearances. She is ultra concerned about the way that she appears to the world. So we're getting to the end of the year. Mike knew something was up, but he didn't know what was up. I know Denise told me that he went to Denise's mom, Johnny Merrill, and was asking her or concerned about money, cash that was disappearing from their accounts. And he didn't know if she was having an affair or was using it for drugs or what was going on, but he was very concerned and had a conversation with Johnny Merrill about that. So Denise was getting worried that things were going to blow up. And she was concerned about not getting divorced because of the appearances of it, but also because she was scared to lose her daughter. She didn't want to lose any time with her daughter. There was also that $500,000 policy. I believe it was paid semi-annually or quarterly. Denise paid the bills. So she knew that policy was only, the plan with Mike when I sold him the $1 million policy was that he was going to drop the $500,000. He wasn't going to keep that. Denise knew the timing on the $500,000 policy and when it was supposed to be lapsing. And I can't tell you what that date was, but it was going to be soon after December of 2000. Their anniversary was also coming up, and I think there was pressure from Mike on her that they needed to have another baby or something like that. There was just a lot of pressure, is the best way I can describe it. So sometime in 2000, the subject of Mike or Kathy's deaths started coming up in conversations. There was no point in talking about anything happening with Kathy. That was not going to happen. I was not going to do anything like that to my son. There were scenarios that were discussed between me and Denise, and at times it was scenarios with Mike and Kathy. I kind of nixed that, and then it started talking into scenarios with Mike. So the scenario, Denise, I don't know how to say this, but Denise has this thing where she gets people to do stuff for her, and she minimizes her, I don't know, guilt or conscience or whatever in it. She's unbelievably good at lying, manipulating, having things work her way, not just with me, but other men I've seen. I mean, she's very good. So she wanted it all to be on me and not on her. And she wanted in her mind a scenario where it wasn't a murder, but it was an accident. So the two main scenarios that I can remember being discussed was, one scenario was we all went out on a boat, the four of us. Mike and Kathy were pushed overboard. Denise and I found our way to safety. And that was one scenario that I said wasn't going to happen. The other scenario was a scenario where Mike and I went hunting and there was an accident. And he didn't make it, but I made it back to safety. So with all the pressure that was put on me, it was agreed about a week, well, probably exactly a week prior, that was when it was going to happen. So my best guess is it was probably planned for Saturday morning a week prior. So I planned to take this trip with Mike. Denise knew everything that was planned. But I got a call from Mike. I believe it was at the time to go, which is very early in the morning, Saturday morning, probably like 3 or 4 in the morning. It may have been earlier, but it was sometime, I think, between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. I got a call from Mike saying, Denise has changed her mind. She doesn't want me to go anymore. I can't go. So she basically had called it off, I guess. I think that I called her immediately after the call from Mike to see what was up. So there may be a record of that phone call. Are y'all, I don't know if you can tell me or not, but are y'all able to get text messages from that long ago, the actual messages themselves?
We won't be able to get them today. I don't know what was gathered back then. We'll have to look. There's a lot of other people that have been involved in this situation.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
2000? I guess it was text in 2000. JJJJ.
Yeah. So that was a week prior. It was called off. Denise and I mean, we talked or texted or met very frequently. I mean, if that wasn't necessarily on a daily basis, but it was very, very frequent.
Go back, and you said you called Denise. Do you recall speaking to Denise that night?
Speaking to her,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I can't remember if it was a phone call or texting, but at some point after that happened, I talked with her, and she just basically said she had gotten cold feet, and wasn't sure that she wanted to go through with it. So we had conversation that week prior to the incident. And she basically said, no, that this is the time. The policy was lapsing. Their anniversary trip was coming up. I can't remember all the factors that were involved. But anyways, she said, no, this is the time. And so it was planned again for the next Saturday. You mentioned Thomasville. I don't think we went to Thomasville the Friday night before. I think Thomasville may have been Thursday night. My understanding is the night before, Mike had to ring a bell for the Salvation Army. So maybe at Walmart or something, I don't know. So they did that. And then my understanding is they went home.
Well, let's stick with this, and it's kind of like where Tim's going. Don't try to ignore what you've read, what you've heard, what everybody said. Stick with what you know, what you remember. This is, like I said, you're kind of running this, so
okay.
Don't try to
brought up Thomas,
and he did, but don't try to fill in anybody else's gaps. Just you lay it out, and then we'll go back and fill in.
Okay. So my understanding of the night before was they did the bell ringing. Kathy and I went to a concert at Floyd's Music Store. It was a group called VAST, V-A-S-T. Denise and I had agreed that we would have very limited communication, as limited as we could make it, prior to the incident and after the incident, just to avoid detection. So the night before, Kathy and I went to the concert. They did the bell ringing thing, and the plan between me and Mike, privately between me and Mike, was that we were going to meet and go hunting the next morning. I had a side plan for an alibi, an arrangement to meet my father-in-law, Jimmy Aldridge, and go hunting at a completely separate location. So the plan was I would meet Mike, go do the crime, then come back to town, meet Jimmy Aldridge, go hunting with him. He's my alibi. And the other part of it was Denise. We wanted to make sure that she had an alibi, but she was supposed to be at home alone with a baby. So the only way she could have an alibi was to make sure that she made phone calls. I believe it was supposed to be from her home number so that she could say that she was at home during that time. So Kathy and I went to the concert. She came home. She had drinks, and she went to sleep hard.
This is Friday night?
Correct. I went and met Mike at a gas station on Thomasville Road. It was on the right-hand side of Thomasville Road. It was either the gas station. I'm fairly certain it was the gas station before McDonald's on Thomasville Road as you're traveling south.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It was either that one or the BP station.
Okay. So you're right there. What's now the flyover? I don't even think the flyover.
I don't know if the flyover was there then.
But you're talking about those two.
Yeah.
I know where you're at.
There was a gas station there. I met him there. I told him not to call me, that my phone wasn't working, because I didn't want any record of phone calls. I followed him. I don't know if he got gas. He made some kind of purchase. I can't remember if it was gas or food in the store. I don't remember. I don't know if he would have used a credit card or cash or what. So I followed him to the lake, and I don't remember if I had told him in advance what landing to go to, or if maybe I asked him at some point and led him there. But we went to the landing where his truck was found. We launched the boat. It was just like a hunting trip was supposed to be. The plan that was discussed and come up with was that he was going to be wearing waders, and the belief was somebody falls in the water with waders, you're going down. So we went out like we were going hunting. We got to the area where his waders and jacket were found. I got him to stand up, and I pushed him into the water. He got his jacket off and his waders off. And he was in a panic, obviously. I was in a panic. I was driving the boat. And I didn't know what to do. And I ended up shooting him. Very tragic. Um, um, went under the water. And so I found him in the water and drug him to the shoreline. I was down one landing from where our vehicles were. So I went and got my vehicle and brought it back to where we were. I backed my Suburban down to the edge of the lake and put his body in the back. And pushed his boat back out into the water. I think I don't want to guess about times, but I knew I was supposed to meet Jimmy Aldridge back in Tallahassee at the carriage gate. And I don't remember if I thought there was a chance of making it or not at that point. But I sped back to town. By the time I got there, I realized it was too late. So I decided to go back to my house. I got back to my house. Went inside. Kathy was still asleep. I got undressed. Got back in bed. And pretended that I just woke up and it was late, that I was late to meet her dad. I called her dad, I believe, from my home phone, because I wanted there to be a record of me calling from my home phone. Told him I was sorry I overslept. Kathy, I tried to let her know that I was there, but I didn't want her to get up and start stirring and be awake. I kind of just wanted her to know I was there, but then stay in bed so that I could deal with my situation. So I did that. I got back into my truck. And I think the first place that I drove to was Walmart on Thomasville Road.
That one 2000, you're talking about the old Walmart? Or is that?
I think it was the new one. Let me clarify this, okay? Yeah, I'm 90% sure it was Walmart.
Okay.
I wanted to get something to hide him with. So the reason I think it was Walmart is because I got weights, like, just like weights, yeah. And I got a tarp. And a shovel. Can we stop for a second? Can we stop for a second?
Yeah, you want to stop these?
Yeah.
Okay. What power?
43. 47.
And I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know if he was trying to swim or I didn't know what was going on, but what I came to find out, or eventually realized, was he was taking the waders and the jacket off. And he swam over to one of those stumps and held on to it. And he was panicking, and I was panicking, and none of this was like going well. I thought it was going to go. And I didn't know what to do. But he started to yell. And I didn't know how to get out of that situation. And so I had my gun in the boat. And so I loaded my gun, and I made 1 or 2 circles around, and I ended up circling closer towards him, and he was in the water. And as I passed by, I shot him.
Where did you shoot him?
Head.
That was approximately 10:07 a.m. on Thursday, February the 8th, 2018. This is Special Agent Mike Devaney with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement of Tallahassee. With me today is Special Agent Will Michael, also with the FDLE. Today we are in the classification area at Wakulla Correctional Institution in Wakulla, Florida, talking to Mr. Brian Winchester, inmate here at Wakulla. In the conference room today is Mr. Winchester's attorneys, Mr. Tim Jansen and Adam Commissar, and also present in the room is Assistant State Attorney John Hughes. As we get started, I believe there's some legal papers that Mr. Jansen wishes to address and read. Mr. Jansen, can go ahead.
Yeah, we were issued a witness subpoena today. He's here. He is going to invoke his Fifth Amendment right not to testify unless he's compelled pursuant this and the protections of immunity, use immunity.
Well, we are compelling his testimony pursuant to the subpoena that's been issued under the subpoena power of the State Attorney's Office for ongoing investigation.
Okay. Mr. Winchester, I'm assuming you discussed this with your attorney. Do you understand what was just read to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you wish to continue?
I'm being compelled, sir.
Okay, very good. Okay. There's a couple of reasons we are here today, Brian. I'm just going to call you Brian, if that's okay. I know we've spoken before about the situation back that you were involved in August the 5th, 2016 in Tallahassee involving your former spouse, Denise, and now she, as I understand it, she's legally Denise Williams. I'm just going to call her Denise as we go along. There's a couple situations that myself and Agent Michael never have addressed with you, and I'm going to go right to it. And as we go along, I may ask some questions. Special Agent Michael also may ask some questions. We're not trying to double team you, but we may go back and forth on a couple of these issues. Okay.
Sure.
The one issue that we would like to address with you today is during the course of events, as we understand it, on August the 5th, 2016, after you had made contact with Denise in her vehicle, at some point, both of you were in her vehicle behind the CVS pharmacy there at the northeast corner of Miccosukee Road and Capitol Circle Northeast. Now, do you understand what I'm referring to?
Right, we were in front of CVS, but
Right in front? Okay, that's fine. If you would, just in your own words, tell us what that was about and generally what was discussed as both of you were sitting in that vehicle.
Okay. I wanted Denise to take me back to my vehicle, and she was refusing to do so. And ultimately, I mean, kind of, I guess the crux of it, and I guess the meat of the conversation was basically, I was despondent and upset about our divorce, and about a lot of other issues that were going on with me at the time. And I raised those issues with her and kind of went down the list, with one of those issues being my concern that when this divorce went through and was over with, that if she came under any pressure from law enforcement regarding what had happened with Mike Williams and what she and I had done, that she would cave and or try to pin everything on me, or in some way implicate me, or just that she wouldn't be able to keep up the agreement that we had for the past 17 years or however long it was. And she assured me that no, I had no reason to be concerned as far as that was concerned, because we had always had the same agreement, and she basically promised me that she would never say anything about what had happened. We didn't go into great detail talking about that issue, but it was one of the things that was touched on in our conversation. I mean, the conversation was probably an hour long, but that was definitely one of the things that came up in the conversation.
You said there wasn't a lot of detail, but you talked for about an hour.
Mm-hmm.
There had been some concerns going back and forth between both of you about what was going to happen the rest of that day. Can you go into any of that?
She wanted me to tell somebody what had happened, and I obviously didn't want law enforcement involved.
And what had happened as far as what was going on right then, or about Mike?
No, about what had happened
Right
that day.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. The thing with Mike wasn't a big deal that day because, like I said, that was a conversation that we had I don't know how many 100 times over the course of our relationship. So as far as what happened that day, she wanted somebody to be notified. And she talked about it being my dad. She talked about it being the police. I obviously didn't want the police involved, so I really didn't want my dad involved either. But ultimately, I realized she wasn't going to back off on it. So the agreement that we had when she dropped me off was that we were going to meet up later that afternoon with my dad.
Was a particular time or location, or what exactly was going to be told your dad?
No, I don't know. I think we had planned we were going to meet at my office with my dad that afternoon, but we were supposed to make touch by telephone after she dropped me off and set up a time because I didn't really know what my dad's schedule was.
When you all were talking about the divorce, was there any particulars regarding monies or insurance monies or anything of that sort?
we didn't get into details about financial issues. I raised the issue of finances and how the divorce was going to affect me. I quite honestly didn't feel like her proposed settlement was fair to me, considering what she had me do for her with regards to Mike. I gave up half of my relationship with my son to be with her. I committed this horrible crime to be with her. I did these horribly destructive things in my life, and yet she was going to walk away with all of the proceeds and all of the assets. So I wasn't happy about it, and I had intended on bringing that up with her in the conversation, but quite honestly, she, in my opinion, sugar talked me, sweet talked me out of bringing that up. When she was saying, this is all going to be fine, we can work it out, we'll work it out with your dad, blah, blah, blah. I kind of bought into that. And so I didn't go into great details on the financial issue, even though that was kind of the way that I felt about it.
When things were settled on the insurance monies, did both y'all control that? Did your dad assist in that? Because there's a lot of money.
You mean like after it was paid out by the companies to her?
Yeah.
I mean, it was paid directly from the companies to her, and it was always in her name. So
What was that final amount? Do you know?
the insurance policies. The one policy was for $1 million. The second policy was for $500,000. The third policy was for $250,000. But then there was about $49,000 in interest on all three of those combined.
Okay. So that 500,000 was to Cotton State?
Correct.
Okay, the $1 million was to Kansas City Life?
And the 250.
And the 250.
Right.
So how did y'all finally leave it there at the CVS? She eventually took you back to the vehicle.
She took me back to my vehicle, and we had an agreement that she was going to meet up with me and my dad later. She, promised me that was what was going to happen, and drop me off.
Yeah. I'm going to go into another subject. Did you want to say something? Okay.
What was the actual agreement? What specifically related to, what did y'all discuss as your pact, your agreement?
About Mike and what happened?
Related to, what happened.
It was always that neither one of us would ever say anything, no matter what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Neither one of us would ever say anything.
And did y'all talk about that frequently?
It became less frequent as the years went by, but initially yes, and then it kind of tapered off over the years. But I mean, we had that conversation, I would say, very frequently.
Was that kind of agreement made, or when was that agreement made? Was it before you got married, right after Mike was killed?
I mean, it was clearly understood beforehand that neither one of us was going to say anything. And there wasn't any time where we had like a formal sit down meeting where this is going to be our agreement. But really what would happen was things would come up. Either something would come up that would make her paranoid and she would want to talk to me about it, or something would come up that would make me paranoid and I would want to talk to her about it. Would there be something in the newspaper or online, or her sister said something, just whatever. Something would bring it up, and then one or the other of us would want to talk about it. And, kind of from the get-go, we both just pretty much promised each other and agreed. We were the only two that knew what had happened. And so the only two that could really tell on each other would be the two of us. So, it was discussed and agreed on multiple occasions that neither one of us would ever say anything, no matter how much pressure we were put on her. And we would talk about scenarios, what if they come to you and do this? Or what if they come to you and say this? What if they come to you and say, you're talking about me? Or what if they come to me and say, we talk about every kind of scenario that could potentially come up. And then ultimately it would always come back to, well, I'm not going to tell on you if you're not going to tell on me.
That day in August, did you have any belief, or whether it was you being paranoid or anything, that she had gone to law enforcement, or that she was going to go to law enforcement and talk about what happened to Mike?
I didn't think she would do that unless she came under pressure. I felt like if it ultimately came down to it, it was a her or me situation, that she was always going to pick her. I realized that through our separation and our divorce. But was I paranoid about it? No.
Since your arrest in August, has anybody received a message from Denise saying that she's not talking to FDLE? Has she passed that message to you through, I don't know, a friend or attorney, or
she tried to communicate with me?
Saying that she wasn't going to talk to law enforcement, that she just wanted you to know that?
No.
Okay. Sorry, Mike.
Actually, I had one more question, and you just mentioned about two things. Still keeping on that same day, Brian, after you were dropped back off of your vehicle and Denise went her way, at some point, a little bit later that same day, you met with a friend of yours, Mr. Manukin or Dr. Manukin, and had a conversation. Can you tell us what happened during that conversation? What was discussed?
I asked him for doctor-patient confidentiality. He promised it to me. And then I proceeded to tell him basically what had happened. But I don't know if he asked me why. I don't remember if he asked me why it happened or if I just volunteered it. But I made some statement. I can't remember if he asked me or if I just volunteered it, but I did make some statement to him about that the police had, or that, I can't remember the wording of it, but I said something to the effect that Denise was sending people to my house to figure out if I was talking about the Mike Williams case.
When you made contact with him that day, I'm assuming you telephoned him. What did you tell him? You just wanted to meet with him?
My initial contact with him?
Yeah.
Yeah, just that I wanted to talk to him.
Okay.
I didn't want to talk on the phone.
Sure.
Somewhere.
Okay. How did you broach the subject of this whole thing?
Well, he and I just kind of had a relationship where we would talk about anything and everything. So, I mean, I kind of got right into it. What would happen? I think I said something along the lines of I hit rock bottom or something like that. And I just wanted to basically tell him what had happened. I don't know if I'm following your question, but
I guess I'm just trying to determine exactly what initially was said to Dr. Newton about that day.
yeah, I mean, initially the question was, can we have doctor-patient confidentiality for this conversation?
Just give me on there.
But then after that, after he assured me, yes, of course, I told him, well, I'd hit rock bottom with some new low, and then described what had happened with that incident. And one of the things that I mentioned, and again, I don't remember if it was just something that I came up with to have a reason, or if he asked me why I did it, but I gave him some reason along the lines that Denise was trying to figure out if I was talking about Mike Wynn's case or not. Because Steve had some understanding of the history of that, not real history, not real in depth, just our relationship and what had happened with Mike, and not what really happened, but what everybody had thought had happened as far as being accident and all that.
Then when you said history, I don't know if he was aware of any history of an agreement between them two.
No.
Did you make that up, or were there people coming to your house?
I made it up.
Who were you with when you were arrested?
At my office, my cousin.
Kevin.
Yeah.
Did you tell him what happened?
What happened when?
With, like, the reason, or I should say,
That day?
yeah. Did you tell him why it happened?
We were together for 20 seconds before I was arrested.
You arrest take place
At my office.
at your own
Parking lot.
Was Kelly just there, or was he?
No, I had called him and asked him to meet me at my office, so we both pulled in at the same time. He waited out in the parking lot. I went inside, got some of my paperwork that you guys have, and got into his vehicle. I said, "Back his vehicle," and everybody pulled in behind us.
Going back again off of that to the CDS situation, how much fear did you have sitting with her that she was going to go to law enforcement and say something? With all these years of agreements, did you have a particular fear on that day that she was going to say something?
Not really.
Okay.
Like I said, I bought into anything Denise ever said to me, really. I mean, that day was just a continuation of me buying into whatever she would brought out there for me.
And both y'all apparently were very comfortable because you both, had in part in what happened to Mike. Is that correct?
Well, I guess the way that I thought of it or even described it at times with her was like it's a stupid analogy, but the mad, mutually assured destruction thing. If you tell me your world's going to fall apart, if I tell you my world's going to fall apart, that's kind of the way that we viewed it. I mean, we had that conversation enough times that we both understood that it would be bad for either one of us if either one of us talked about it. Or it would be bad for both of us if either one of us talked about it. So I felt, I mean, she had no reason to talk. She had millions of dollars in the bank and she's going to go live her life, happily ever after. So I wasn't real concerned about her talking. So I was angry about the way that things had worked out, but I wasn't scared.
Well, after you got married, did you have access to that money, or did she just kind of keep it in, or how did that work out?
She kept everything in her name, and I never asked her to put anything in my name. I had influence, and I had, I mean, when we made financial decisions, I had input into it, and I made some financial decisions, but ultimately, legally, everything was always in her name, whether it was the cash dollars themselves or assets that she bought with it, property or stocks or whatever. All of that always stayed in her name, except for the house that we bought together on Middle Landing.
Did she ever live in that house at all?
No. And the office building that we bought together. But in our divorce, I bought her out of both of those. So those are no longer hers.
Why did she move into the house that you're all together?
Why didn't she? I think because in the back of her mind, what happened was she knew she was ultimately going to divorce me, and she didn't want to uproot her life and her daughter into that house. She also forbid me to live in that house for 2 years. She forced me to go live with my parents for 2 years instead of letting me go live in an empty house.
How could she do that? I'm curious. Forbade you from living there.
Because I was willing to jump through any hoop and bend over backwards and agree with whatever she said that I needed to do to try to save our marriage.
So the house just sat there?
So the house sat there with me paying for it and maintaining it for 2 years.
No, it was
and I was not allowed to live in it. So me and my son had to go live with my parents.
When did you ultimately move into it?
2 years after we separated, so probably sometime about November, fall of 2014. Because we separated in November of 2012.
Again, during that hour you were at the pharmacy, was there ever any threats that went back and forth between y'all as far as somebody was going to tell or say something to law enforcement about Mike Williams? Did anything ever get heated with any threats along those lines? I know there was this long-term agreement for all those years, but did anything almost come unravel during that 1 hour time frame?
No, and I'm thinking about a previous meeting that we had too. So I'm thinking, but yeah, no. I think both of us would have been to play that card with each other would have been dangerous for either one of us. So I never did that. I thought about it, but I never did it. And she never did. I mean, like I've told you before, her thing, her MO, she never wanted, she rarely wanted to talk about this because she preferred to live in denial. She preferred to live in La La Land where she pretended she had nothing to do with it, that she wanted to stick her, like, if something would come up online with the investigation or somebody said something or whatever, if I would bring it up with her, she would shut me down immediately and not want to hear anything about it. She never wanted to hear anything about that issue because she preferred to live in this denial, make-believe world that she had nothing to do with it. So that was kind of her approach, whereas my approach was more, I wanted to know everything that was going on, everything anybody said. So no, neither one of us threatened each other with it. Because in my opinion, that could have been dangerous.
You made reference just a second ago to a previous meeting with Denise. Talk about it.
I went by her work. I went by her work one morning. It was probably 3 weeks before the August 5th incident, and waited for her where I knew she worked in her parking lot. She came driving in, saw me, freaked out. I saw her get on her phone and call somebody. When she did that, it scared me, and so I left and then called her up at her office, and I said, I've got something for you. I want to talk to you. She didn't want to talk to me. We went back and forth, but she ended up coming down to the parking lot and meeting me. I had some savings bonds, actually. It was like $40,000 worth of savings bonds that were in her name that she had completely forgotten that she even had. I could have burned the things that she had never known they even existed. But that was kind of the bait that I used to get her to come down and talk with me. So she came down, and I wanted to talk about the same things that we ended up talking about on August 5th. I wanted to talk about the divorce and how it was going to affect us. But I also brought up, and maybe this is where I got the idea that I told Manukin about it, but I said something. I said something to the effect that people, what did I say? I either said that people had come to me and told me that she was talking, or I had heard that people would come to her. But it was kind of a test. I mean, I was testing her, basically. I wanted to see what she would say if I brought up this scenario of her saying anything. And I can't remember if it was that I said that the same thing I told Manukin, that people would come to me and said she was talking, or that I had heard that people had gone to her. Either way, it's the same thing. But again, she didn't want to talk about it. I actually wanted to get her in the vehicle. I actually had in my mind, I wanted to get her into my vehicle and I wanted to record her on the phone talking about stuff. But she wouldn't get in. She stayed outside.
Did you have a recorder with you?
I had my phone. I was going to do it with my phone. And she wouldn't get into the, because I wanted insurance. I mean, I wanted an insurance policy. If anything ever came up, that she couldn't deny. No.
You were wanting her to talk about her culpability with Mike, right?
How did she react when you said that to her? What did she say?
She shut down immediately and didn't want to talk about it at all. And she may have suspected what I was trying to do because we were suspicious of each other. We were suspicious of law enforcement bugging our vehicles or our phones or our house or whatever. And we were both suspicious of each other recording each other. Like, I think I told you before, when we would go talk, we'd go to a park and make sure our cell phones were left in the vehicle. If we would talk in a vehicle with our cell phones, we would take the batteries out to make sure nobody could be listening in, however they used to say, turn on the phones automatically or whatever. So she wouldn't get in the vehicle and talk about it, which is what I was hoping she would do. But she kind of shut it down, and I gave her the savings bonds, and then she left.
What were you going to do to prompt her to talk about it? To actually make the recording?
What I did. And I also wrote something on an envelope. I wrote something like, we need to talk about, and when we would talk about Mike, we usually wouldn't say Mike, we would usually say Cheryl. And we would make this letter. I need to talk to you about this, because Cheryl was the one that kind of kept the investigation going and prompted everything for some reason. I don't know why. That's what we always, that was kind of our signal to each other that we need to talk about this. But she didn't go for that. I think she actually mentioned that in her interview. Maybe it was with McCready. Whatever, the day that she was interviewed, the day of the incident, she did mention it to somebody about me coming by her work. But I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been McCready.
How did you end that contact that day? Did she just walk away, or how did you end it?
Yeah, she shut it down. I mean, I was in my vehicle. She was outside. She took the money and ran back to her office, and basically just saying, we don't have anything to talk about. I mean, yeah, she did. She did say the same thing she always said. And that's what kind of tipped me off, that she might suspect that I was trying to report her, because the thing that she would always say was, Mike went hunting that day. I was at home with Ansley. I don't know what happened. She kind of made a point of saying that. And
She said that during that meeting.
yeah, and when she said that in that way,
to me in that environment. To me, that said she was suspicious, or because it was odd or unusual for her to say that and say it in that way to me, because she knows that more than kids.
Going back to 2000, if Mike and Denise were going to go on a trip out of town, like, who would each one of them pack their own suitcase? Was Mike like a planner where he would pack the night before?
He was not a planner where he would pack the night before. My guess is he would have thrown something together at the last second after he came in late.
What about Denise?
She would pack, I think, 3 days in advance and pack 3 suitcases. Supposedly, they were supposed to have been going to Gibson Inn. And I don't know whether reservations were ever made there or not. I've heard different stories on that there were reservations that were not. But that was what was supposed to happen. At this point, Brian, I'm not sure there would be anything else to ask you about.
You talked at one point that you and Denise had over the years run through scenarios. Run through scenarios regarding if it came to light or whatnot. Right. Scenarios that y'all run through.
Like, if they come to you and say this, what are you going to say? If they come to you and say that, what are you going to say? Scenarios like somebody approaching her at her work. Scenarios like you get arrested. Any scenario that we could think of that law enforcement would use to come to us, either to try and get information or to, make an arrest or whatever. So, we would talk about what you need to do if this happens. Because we had been approached, at our place of business, at our house, we had some interaction. So we wanted to be prepared for whatever scenario might come up.
Walk me through one scenario. You're approached her. She's approached by law enforcement officer.
The bottom line of all the scenarios was you never talk no matter what. That was the bottom line of every scenario that we came up with. And we would talk about the fact that, they're going to tell you that I'm talking about you. They're going to tell me that you're talking about me. You don't ever need to believe them because that's never going to be true. You agree, yes, that's going to be true. I'm never going to talk about you. The ultimate bottom line of all of it was neither one of us were ever going to talk or say anything about it.
Did y'all ever have any kind of like panic word signal or something like that, like alarm code or something like that? You give it a word off or something like that would indicate the other person that it was fake or real?
No, that would have been a good idea, but we didn't. The only code things we had was the C thing. We wanted to talk because we didn't want to talk in our house. So when she would come to me and say, "I want to talk to you," it would either be this or this, meaning jail. So those were our 2 hand signals that we need to talk about something, and let's go outside or go to the park or whatever.
What was the scenario that you talked about as it relates to if she was arrested? Walk me through that one.
I don't remember like details of that, but the ultimate goal of those conversations with both of us was basically that neither one of us was going to talk because we felt like neither one of us was going to be held responsible unless one of us flipped on each other.
Any scenarios that you gave if you were getting arrested or something about it that you
As we went through our separation and ultimately divorce, and I saw how he was manipulating and portraying me to the people we were dealing with, whether that was people in our church or counselors or relatives or whoever. I started to get concerned about the storyline that he was creating about me being this crazy, just the storyline that he went along with, because it wasn't the reality of our relationship. I went along with it because I was trying to save the relationship. I was kind of in a position where I've got over you to be the bad guy no matter what you said. And I had people telling me that that's what I needed to do. But it made me, the more extreme she got with it, the more concerned I got with where that ultimately could head. And that's when I started getting the idea of it might not be a bad idea for me to get some insurance on Denise, to get a recording or some kind of evidence on her that she was just as involved in this as I was. I wish I had been more. I wish I had pursued that.
Did you have any quicker? You talk about going outside her office and you were fired. Yeah.
No, because toward the end, she really shut me out and wouldn't have a whole lot of contact with me. So I had very limited opportunities for it. I thought that $40,000 in cash would be enough bait to at least get her in the vehicle, but she wouldn't even care for that.
And after all these years, after 15, 16, 17 years, why do you think she would actually say anything to you about this if she was totally shut down? I was never going to talk about it. I mean, you were trying to get some sort of insurance. What made you think she would finally actually say something?
Oh no, it wasn't that she would finally say something. I mean, we talked about it. We talked about it all through, but gradually over time, as things cooled down, I guess you could say, as far as law enforcement, our perception, from the beginning, she would talk about it a lot, and I don't know if this was a psychological thing for her, that this is what she needed to believe.
You talk about her a lot as far as talking about
what happened and law enforcement issue. I mean, it got to where, I think in her mind, it got to where she believed nothing would ever transpire from it as from a law enforcement perspective. So her story that she needed to believe and tell her daughter and tell herself and be able to live with herself was the story that we created for her, which was that she was at home with her baby, Michael hunting, and she has no idea what happened. So at some point, she kind of, I wouldn't say flip that switch, but that became her, what she would regurgitate. All I know is blah, 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 blah.
You say at some point, what point, how long we're talking about time frame?
Maybe 12 years, 10 to 12 years after.
Yeah. So we're talking about beforehand, and after 10, 12 years, she switches, and now her standard line is legals.
Right. Okay. And I don't know the reasons for that. I don't know if it's because she was paranoid about me somehow reporting her saying something, or if that just psychologically, I mean, it's a hard thing to live with, so you have to come up with something, and whether that's complete denial, which I think is what she chose, or the route that I took, unhealthy behaviors, you have to live with it somewhat, and I think she chose the complete denial route.
Did y'all ever have a scenario that one or two of y'all were arrested that the other could send a message to the other saying, "Don't worry, I didn't talk"? Kind of assurance.
No, because it was so firmly agreed in advance that neither one of us would talk. I mean, it was set in stone. I would never talk. I could never do that to Stafford. I could never do that to Anderson. It was
it was set in stone. Well,
I think we're going to terminate the contact with Roger Estate at the correct time now, because you'll watch.
It's 5 foot.
Okay, move it on. Okay, we're going to terminate the prime control.